Good morning. Welcome to our Bible study on this 8th day of September. Today we are going to be looking at the epistle written by Jude. And as we read that, before we get into it, we'll have our opening prayer be Psalm number 90. I'll read the introduction from the Psalter. It says, "The church sings Psalm 90 in services where we recognize the perspective that comes after the passage of time, especially when joy comes after relief from affliction. The only psalm written by Moses, it leads off books 4 and 5 of the Psalter. Martin Luther said Psalm 90 is a teaching psalm. Moses teaches that death comes as a result of sin, which is innate from Adam to all of us, even though it is known only by God and is hidden from the world. The psalmist asserts that life here is both short and miserable, and could well be called daily death. But that is surprisingly good, because we are driven to God's gracious help for deliverance. The psalm ends with the prayer that God would show us this deliverance by sending Christ. It is a short, fine, rich, and full little prayer. So this Psalm 90, a prayer of Moses, the man of God. I'll read the first line. Y'all can respond with an indented line or lines. Lord, you have been our dwelling place throughout all generations. Before the mountains were born, or you brought forth the whole world, from everlasting to everlasting, you are God. You turn people back to dust, saying, return to dust, you mortals. 1,000 years in your sight are like a day that has just gone by, or like a watch in the night. Yet you sweep people away in the sleep of death. They are like the new grass of the morning. In the morning it springs up new, but by evening it is dry and withered. We are consumed by your anger and terrified by your indignation. You have set our iniquities before you, our secret sins in the light of your presence. All our days pass away under your wrath. We finish our years with a moan. Our days may come to 70 years, or 80 if our strength endures. Yet the best of them are but trouble and sorrow, for they quickly pass and we fly away. If only we knew the power of your anger. Your wrath is as great as the fear that is your due. Teach us to number our days, that we may gain a heart of wisdom. Relent, Lord. How long will it be? Have compassion on your servants. Satisfy us in the morning with your unfailing love, that we may sing for joy and be glad all our days. Make us glad for as many days as you have afflicted us, for as many years as we have seen trouble. May your deeds be shown to your servants, your splendor to their children. May the favor of the Lord our God rest on us. Establish the work of our hands for us. Yes, establish the work of our hands. And we pray. God our Father, our lives are passing shadows, but you endure. Teach us to make the most of every day, so that we avoid inciting your anger, and instead find our everlasting refuge in you. For you live and rule with the Son and the Holy Spirit, one God, now and forever. Amen. You should all have a sheet that's up on the screen. I didn't even double check that. Not worth much if it's crooked and blurry. Should be a little bit better for us today. Jude, what do you know about? Yeah, Sally, go ahead.
I just had a comment, kind of a lingering comment from last week that
Okay.
I had looked up about, baptism on Wells website, and another thing that they had mentioned was like, we were talking about the length of time, like when people between when they were born and baptized. And one thing was mentioned, like in the Old Testament, like circumcision took place like after 8 days. So I guess maybe that kind of set like a standard, for maybe when baptism would occur. And the other thing that I noticed they mentioned was that there can be a reaffirmation of baptism at church, like even though if it's done in the hospital, like when a person, brings a child to church, there can be a reaffirmation of the baptism, at a worship service.
Yeah, good points. Yes, oftentimes that comparison of circumcision to baptism, almost like an Old Testament sacrament of circumcision and baptism, the New Testament sacrament, that time period of 8 days really does indicate don't wait. And then one of the things that helps is that reaffirmation or public, I actually, people don't understand what reaffirmation means, so I'll usually just say, hey, this is our public declaration that baptism happened. If baptism is done immediately, or day of birth or day after, having it later in church when the family is able to come is an opportunity. Good thoughts. Anything else from last week? If not, what do you know about St. Jude? Okay, that's all right. It's an interesting, it's probably one of the lesser known books of the Bible, partly because it's so short, but partly because I've never preached on any verse from Jude, any text from Jude. It's not found in any of the church, none of the scripture verses are found in any of the churchier pericopes. It's just kind of, not especially sure why it's left out, but it is important for us to take a look at. I've actually never taught a Bible study on it either until this time, and I thought with this being before my surgeries, with this study just kind of being a one and done, that we'd cover 25 verses quickly on one Sunday morning. But then I prepared it and I said, well, we might only get halfway through. We will see. Who was the writer Jude? Well, in Greek, let me pronounce what the Greek is. Judas. So Jude is actually the name for Judas, or Judah in Hebrew. Judas is the Greek of Judah. And our English translators said, let's not use Judas, let's use Jude. Any guesses as to why that would make sense?
Not to confuse with Judas.
Don't forget about Judas Iscariot. There's already two Judases in the disciples. There's Judas Iscariot, who betrayed him, and there's also Judas Thaddeus, that is sometimes just called Thaddeus, again by our usage, so that we don't confuse him. But this is neither one of them. Verse 17 really indicates that this writer is not one of the apostles, but came after them. He refers to some of the others' words. He identifies himself, as we see in the opening verses, just go over it now, as Jesus' brother, so probably half-brother. The Gospels actually list out 4 names, so this would be the sons of Mary and Joseph. So actually Jesus was not Joseph's biological son, right? Conceived by the Holy Spirit. So, and James, the epistle writer James, not the apostle James, but the epistle writer James was a pillar of the church and the writer of the Epistle of James. So he's James's brother. So this would be, all right, this is another one of Jesus' half-brothers. The purpose is really found in verses 3 and 4, to urge believers to stand firm in the faith. It's similar to 2 Peter, especially chapter 2, where God foretold that false teachers were coming. Jude's message actually describes false teachers as having arrived. He's going to give a few examples of them, and that these prophecies from Peter were being fulfilled. And Jesus himself talked about wolves in sheep's clothing. Jesus' prophecy also is being fulfilled as false teachers come. The date we don't know for sure, but probably written after 2 Peter. It seemed that, for my instance, it's debatable, but it seems like Jude might be referring to Peter's letter rather than Peter referring to Jude's letter. The similarities are it's debatable which is which, but if it's written after 2 Peter, then probably sometime between AD 68 and AD 80. Unique characteristics, a triad. Anybody know what a triad is? Anybody play music? What's a triad? Triplet. It's a triad or a triplet. Quickly 3. A triad is a grouping of 3. three things that go together in subject matter, and so we'll just note these when they come up. There's a couple of instances where it's not a triad, and he goes to a list of four things. But so he doesn't force himself to that mechanism, that literature mechanism, but he follows it oftentimes. So any questions about this introduction, just kind of jumping us into Jude with those points? I hope that you can recognize why it's important for us to jump into it today, because the false teachers of Jude's day, predicted by Peter and Jesus, are still out there and still trying to slip into the church, right? So we'll dig into these words, and we need the same purpose to be urged to stand firm in the faith. Sally?
I just have a quick question. Has anybody here ever heard of anyone named Judas? I have not. I've heard of people named Jude, but I've never heard of anyone nowadays, in recent history that's named Judas.
In my mission work in Latin America, some folks were actually named Judas, but it is a name that for 2,000 years Christians have avoided using.
So these people weren't Christians.
Well, actually, I think they were Christians. They named him after one of the other. They thought they were naming him after the saint Judas. That they don't like in English. Jude, right? Can be Judas. In Spanish, they really don't have that distinction of. I don't know how, Rosie. How would you say just Jude? It's Jude. No, so Judas would.
Yeah, in Spanish it's just San Judas.
Yeah. So you don't really have that distinction.
I haven't even known anyone like around here that's named Judas. So.
Yeah, it's definitely not as common as Jesus or Mateo or Juan, right? All right, the greeting. Anybody volunteer to read the greeting? Dave, you looked at me first. So just go ahead and take verses 1 and 2.
Jude, a servant of Jesus Christ and brother of James, to those who are called, who are loved in God the Father and kept for Jesus Christ. Mercy, peace, and love be multiplied to you.
All right, so we talked about who Jude seems to be, half-brother of Christ, brother of James, described himself as a servant of Jesus here. And then we jump off, and immediately, do you catch the first triad? I labeled it in the notes as well, in the right column. It's the recipients. The recipients have three words that describe them. Called, loved, kept. Right? Loved is in some of the manuscripts in the Greek have the word sanctified rather than loved. It seems like loved is more prevalent as far as the translations go. The sanctified and loved, the Greek word for sanctified and loved is very similar. But called, why would Christians receiving this letter be described as called? Think of the explanation of the third article of the Apostles' Creed. The Holy Spirit has called me by the gospel. We are called by the gospel. Like God's grace has called us, not like on a telephone, but the gospel called and then brings us into the faith, into that knowledge. And that call isn't just one that is actually an empowering call that gives us faith as well. And then loved. Why would love, this is a kindergarten answer, why would loved in God be a description of Christians? Because they are. Right? Loved. What a blessed title to have. Oh, you're loved by God. Loved by God. And it's a wonderful description. And then the third word in that triad, kept. Why is that an important word in these three? Called, loved, but then kept.
Safe and sound.
Safe and sound. One of the Bible translators carried out that thought of we're safe and sound by being for Jesus and being with Jesus isn't just a possibility. It's a certainty. We're kept there. We're safe and sound with him. So, any questions on that first triad or triplet? Next one in verse 2, you see right there, mercy, peace, and love multiplied to you. Some of those seem to be synonyms, mercy and love, but can you maybe distinguish between mercy and love first? Yeah, this printout is the EHV. So if you catch a difference from the NIV, any of you following in the NIV, definitely share. But mercy, what's mercy?
Compassion for us.
Compassion, very related. And mercy, well, when we have love is a word that in the Greek, you have that agape word for love, which is free and faithful and independent love. God loves, and there's nothing in Pastor Steve that makes God want to love me. Totally independent. Guess what mercy is? Mercy looks at Pastor Steve and says, I want to love him. But not because of anything good, but because of how worthless and miserable I am. So love is if you have a pet dog that you have that you just love because it's your pet, right? Not because of anything specific about it, but mercy is seeing a stray dog covered in fleas and mange and struggling to eat. You can see the ribs on the dog. You say, I'm going to love that dog and bring it home. That's mercy. Okay, so there's a bit of a nuanced difference between mercy and love, and we see why both of them are important. How does peace fit in the middle between mercy and love in this triad?
The contentment.
Okay, peace includes contentment. Good, yeah. And why do we have contentment?
Because of mercy.
Because of mercy and love. Yeah. So we could actually say that peace results from love and mercy. Right? It is that relationship with God, that we're not at war with him. Sometimes grace is used as well. That is that word that would describe undeserved love, but it's not used in this triad. Okay. Anything else on this greeting? All right, let's jump to the purpose for the writing. Rosie, would you like to take the next paragraph, which is actually verses 3 and 4?
Dear friends, although I was very eager to write to you concerning the salvation we share, I felt it was necessary for me to write to urge you to continue to contend for the faith that was delivered to the saints once and for all. For certain individuals lived in secretly, about whom it was written some time ago that they are condemned. They are ungodly people who turn the grace of our God into a license for sin and deny our only Master and Lord Jesus Christ.
Okay, so here's the purpose. What do you catch from verse 3 about Jude? He said, I'm writing you a letter, and this is what I want to write about, but I can't write about what I want to write about. You catch that what I was saying? I wanted to write to you about salvation, and I wanted to tell you rejoice and be happy and all these fun things. But guess what? I can't do that because I got to tell you, fight. There's problems. There's infiltrators. There's false teachers. So I got to urge you to contend. If you got to fight for the faith. You got to contend for it. It's not just a time of rejoicing. So that's really what that verse 3. We wanted to be all positive and rejoicing, but no, I got to tell you, tough times and finding these problems around you. Verse 4 describes why that fight is necessary. Certain individuals are not named. The individuals who are false teachers in Jude's day, he doesn't give them any credence by saying their names. But he describes them. They slipped in secretly. So they're in the church and trying to teach their own thing, not God's message. It was prophesied about them some time ago, we can see it in part refers to 2 Peter. I have that in the notes. That Jude is really writing to that the prophecies from 2 Peter of false teachers slipping in, well, that they're being fulfilled now. And not only Peter's prophecy, but Jesus' own words about wolves dressed up as sheep. And they are condemned. How is their false teaching described at the end of verse 4? It turned the grace of our God into a license for sin. You want to put that in your own words? What are you doing if you're turning the grace of God, his undeserved love, into a license to sin?
God loves everybody, so we can do whatever we want.
God loves everybody, so we can do whatever we want. Anybody else, any other ways that you've heard it, or and even be tempted personally by it?
They feel that God forgives everybody, so they're like, we can take advantage of the
Yeah,
situation.
God forgives me, so I can take advantage and go out and have fun and sin. Yeah, and turning it into a license, right? Grace is undeserved love, so I'm going to keep on undeserving it. Okay? But what is it really that doing? It's making a mockery of God. When you receive undeserved love, then you say, I didn't deserve this, but this love makes me want to do my best to get close to deserving it, even though I never will. So it doesn't mean, and this is something very early on in the church, and this is why false teachers in the church have come in and said, oh, the grace of God is too easy. Heaven is free. Well, people are going to just turn it into a reason to sin. So we gotta add some laws and make people be forced to obey God rather than doing it out of contentment and thanks. Then in that way, when they make it a license to sin, they deny the only Master and Lord Jesus. Verse 4 seems to apply the beginning, which is our God. Probably more refers to the Father. When Master and Lord Jesus Christ, probably both of those terms refer to the Son of God. Master and Lord referring to Jesus. Any questions on that paragraph? Any thoughts? Is that grace of God turned into a license to sin? Is that prevalent today?
Very much.
Yeah, it's prevalent, and it's a temptation in here in the heart too, right? I'm going to be forgiven, and we'll just give in to the temptation.
And that's probably the reason a lot more people do not go to church. They're like, oh, I believe in God, and they think that's enough.
Okay, yep. I have some knowledge of God. I know God exists, and that's enough. And then it's a reason why, well, the call of hypocrites are out there, right? Christians are hypocrites. They preach all these things about holiness, but then they're all sinners. We just say yes. But the answer to that is not to say stay away from church. The answer to that is to say God forgives sinners and declares us holy, and it's a wonderful gift. Come and enjoy it. But again, it's not a license to sin. All right, Sally, please.
And then also there was like some people that felt that they could pay for their sins too, like to pay with the indulgences and pay by saying penance or like rosary things, I guess, and all that.
Yeah, and that really happens, that if you start to teach that you can pay for forgiveness, which is what your comment was about, indulgences is one of the you're actually paying for the right to indulge. That's what an indulgence is, right? Or paying for the license, I'm going to pay for the sin before I commit it. And that's actually turning the law of God into a license to sin. The grace of God, it's even worse to turn that into a license to sin.
Isn't that what Martin Luther was against?
Yep, exactly, right.
Indulgences.
Yeah, exactly, right. So you got to maintain that biblical narrow middle of recognizing I can't pay for sin. Jesus did, right? Payment for sin is impossible. I could never earn it. But when I am forgiven, I am not free to sin and do whatever I want. Right? Actually, if I'm forgiven, the Christian part of me will do whatever I want because my wanting conforms more and more to what my Lord and Master wants. So, yeah, so exactly. The Martin Luther, again, would have gone right in agreement with these words of Jude. Right? God's grace is not a license to sin. Anything else on that?
It's amazing that it still goes on today. It's very prevalent today.
Yeah, when it comes to heresy and false teaching, there's nothing new under the sun. It keeps on coming back. Okay. Verses 5 and following. 5 and following is actually going to present us with a triad of an application from history. Anybody care to read there? Carol, please.
I want to remind you, though you already know these things, that after the Lord rescued his people out of the land of Egypt, he later destroyed those who did not believe. And the angels who did not keep their position of authority, but left their own dwelling places behind. God has kept them in everlasting chains under darkness for the judgment of the great day. Like Sodom and Gomorrah, the cities around them, who in similar way indulged in extreme sexual immorality and pursued homosexual perversion. They serve as an example of those who are going to suffer the punishment of eternal fire.
Okay, so a reminder here, and you know these things, you've heard these words, you're in Bible study, you're familiar with the truths of God's word, but a reminder can take on new ways of looking at things. First of all, that footnote that with that letter C, when it says the word Lord, here in the New Testament, we can think of Lord referring to Jesus, not specifically the Father, and say, but Jesus wasn't born yet in the Old Testament. This is when the God's people were rescued from Egypt. Well, in many instances, especially 1 Corinthians 10, we hear about how Christ was active in the Old Testament, how Christ was with God's people in the wilderness on their way from Egypt to the Promised Land. So Jesus active there. This triad is actually one in verse 5 and then two found in, one in verse 6 and one in verse 7. And they're listed here. His people, the Israelite people after they left Egypt, they are the first example of how, I'm sorry, I'm just looking at my notes here and I think I got something out of order. Okay, the devil and his angels is the second one. So the first one is the God's people rescued from Egypt. Many of them perished. Why did they perish from Egypt? Because, they sinned and they turned their back on following God. They said, we're going to do our own thing. We're going to recognize we're rescued from Egypt and we're going to do whatever we want. That freedom from slavery in Egypt became a license to do whatever they wanted. Right? And they paid for it. They didn't, those over 20 years old all died in the wilderness, and many of them died without faith. We don't have the exact numbers of those who died without faith, but there was a judgment for them. The second in the triad, we have the angels who did not keep their position of authority. We have an interesting general description, and I read this verse and I say, man, I got a lot of questions. Well, what was this sin? What did they do wrong with these angels, right? The angel, this is me read verse 6 again. And the angels who did not keep their position of authority, but left their own dwelling place behind. That's really their description of sin, their sin. We don't have a whole lot else, right? Here, they lost the authority by sinning against God. God had created them with all this authority, and God had created them holy and perfect. And it seems that they turned that perfection, that gift that they were given, into a license to do whatever they wanted. And they turned their back on God. So what happened? God keeps them in chains under everlasting darkness until judgment. So they are being punished for that, and it doesn't mean they're totally separated from us, but they're chained. Their powers are limited by God. They're another example of turning God's grace into a license to sin. Comments or questions on that one? Yeah, please.
I'm just thinking, he talks about the judgment day. Did that not happen when Christ was on the cross and descended into hell? Was that not the judgment day for the devil?
Judgment day, the judgment on the great day is talking about the last day here. But the judgment has already happened. For the devil and his angels, it happened way back when they sinned immediately. They lost their position. They were confirmed in their falsehood, in their sin, in their evil separation from God. So that judgment occurred. But God said, because of the way he did the world and did the opportunity for Adam and Eve and their descendants to believe in a Savior, God said, devil and your angels, you're chained up, but you are not locked away, forever separated from my people. You're still going to be roaming around. So that judgment occurred, but they're chained, not confined. Okay? And then on the cross, which you mentioned, Carol, on the cross that was definitely repeated. The power of the devil is totally gone, defeated, chained up, limited by Jesus, defeated sin, death, and the devil, and yet the devil is still on this earth until the great day of judgment. So it's really, the judgment has happened, but it's going to be full and complete on the last day. So to answer your question, give follow up a little bit. Okay.
It's just, there are a few things that I've always struggled with. That's this being one of them, because it is just really, really big, and they just have to say, well, okay, yep, this is the way it is because it says it is.
Yeah, because you know what, along those thoughts, my mind, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but my mind goes where I think your mind is going. You got the devil chained up. Why are you still letting him tempt us? Why? And God says, I'm not telling you yet, right? And you can say, Pastor, why is the devil still able to tempt us? He's only chained, not confined away from us. And I look at you and I say, Carol, I don't know. Because God doesn't tell us. God's in control, and for some reason he had that decision, and he is smarter than me. So exactly what we struggle with it, and we say, okay, God, I'm going to let it go and trust you, which is ultimately when our mind does not understand fully. That's where faith comes in. And we go, okay, God, faith.
He's kind of on a leash, though.
He
only goes so far.
He is chained. He's on a leash. He only goes so far. And that's a wonderful comfort for us to know. If I got the neighbor dog, pit bull, on a chain, not behind a fence, but I know that there's a worn out patch of grass in the lawn where he can go and he can't get any further, I'm not going to go and see how close I can get to that patch of grass. Yeah, his bark kind of scares me. I'm going to actually stay further away. Right, and I'm definitely not going to go into that area where he can get me. I'm going to stay away from those places where it's obvious that the devil's temptations are. So yeah, definitely that chained aspect is important here. The third in the triad, Sodom and Gomorrah, and the sexual immorality, both male and female intercourse out of marriage, and then also the homosexual perversion, which is literally from the Greek says they went after unnatural flesh. Basically, that's the same thing. The grace of God, the blessings of God that he's given to us become a license to do whatever I want. Okay? And Their example of judgment, fire falling from heaven, okay, down upon them. So that definitely we have those examples to remind us, all right, grace is a license to sin, this idea, you don't want to go there. Here are this triad of examples of why you should stay away from it. Comments or questions on that?
And I think just a lot of people today don't really think there's a real hell. It's like it really isn't real. How could God be that?
If God is love, how can there be a hell? We know what that is? Oh, God is love, so it's a license to do whatever I want because he would want me to be happy. Right? If there is a loving God, there can't be. So that is that secret false teaching that slips in and is so attractive to the human mind to explain, how to just not have to answer how a loving God can send anybody to hell. Right? But the answer, simply, there is a loving God who is also holy. And he is both. He is 100% loving. He is 100% holy. And I'm not going to overcome that discrepancy by pretending he doesn't love somebody or saying he doesn't love. I'm not going to overcome that discrepancy by saying, oh, he won't punish somebody. I'm going to say the only way I overcome that discrepancy, 100% holy and 100% loving, is by turning it into a cross where Christ is. Okay? So that's how we get past this grace of God and license to sin. But you're right. Our day and age, God's a loving God, must want me to be happy. Well, look at God's people leaving Egypt. Look at the devil, the angels. Look at Sodom and Gomorrah. All right, the next paragraph. This one is even, if we thought the description of the angels falling into sin is interesting, verse 8 and 9 adds a bit more. Celia, mind reading there?
Yet in the very same way, these dreamers are defiling the flesh, despising authority, and blaspheming glorious ones. But when the archangel Michael was disputing with the devil and arguing about the body of Moses, he did not dare to bring a blasphemous condemnation against him. Instead, he said, "The Lord rebuke you."
Okay, interesting. Something here that's not referred to anywhere else in the Bible. Okay, but verse 8, let's start with verse 8. Verse 9 is that unique description. These dreamers are the ones who are dreaming of a license to sin because of God's grace. What are they doing? A triad again. Defiling, despising, blaspheming. Okay, defiling the flesh, sinning in the body, right? Despising authority, saying, God, what you say doesn't matter, right? Blaspheming glorious ones. And usually we think, the glorious ones, well, these are the angels, the holy angels. But in the context with what happens in verse 9, glorious ones actually seems to be a description of the fallen angels who were made with glory and still possess some of that immense, amazing power and wherewithal of the spirit realm that we don't see and touch, right? So the glorious ones, and how are they maybe blaspheming glorious ones? These dreamers are taking the powers of the devil and saying, I'm going to use Satan and his things for my own benefit. What's really happening? Just the opposite. They are not more glorious and more powerful than the devil. They are become tools and subjects of the devil. So that's really what we see. And so the 9 is an application of that, don't blaspheme the glorious ones. Michael the archangel, okay, disputing with the devil over the body of Moses. This isn't anywhere else in the Bible. The apocryphal books have some, the intertestamental that aren't inspired have a little bit of a story here that's made up, maybe describing this. But Moses' body, what do we know about it in Deuteronomy 34:6? He died, but God did not show us place where he was buried. He went off by himself, died, and was buried. God buried him. And the indication is that if Moses' body had been left alive, or left around, not alive, Moses' body had, and you knew where Moses' burial site was, the children of Israel would have had a temptation. Let me turn that into a shrine. Let me worship Moses' grave spot. And you see how that happens in this day and age? What are the holy sites? And like Islam goes to Muhammad's tomb, right? And different places where, oh, I'm going to worship God, or I'm going to worship even the body of God's followers. Let's not go there. I'm not going to show you where that is. And so it seems like the devil may have been trying to use Moses' body to turn it into an idol. That's exactly what what Israelites probably would have done. The archangel Michael was tasked with preventing that, and he didn't even blaspheme or condemn the devil. He didn't speak against the glories. Even the archangel Michael, with all of his glory, didn't belittle the devil. He just said, "The Lord rebuke you." He didn't have to go into the name calling and drudging through the mud. So that's really the point here. You don't have to get into that name calling battle with the devil. You don't use the devil. Don't let him use you. But just say, "I'm staying out of this. The Lord rebuke you." And we were in good company. The archangel Michael did that. Comments or questions on that?
See, I was thinking a different way,
Uh-huh.
maybe not a right way here, but it almost seemed to me that the devil was saying Moses should come to hell, and Michael is saying, no, he's God's chosen, he's going to heaven.
Yeah, that is a possibility, but if you know why Moses' body was hidden when it was buried, and that you kind of understand, all right, this is the devil trying to use Moses' body to get people to sin, and the whole point is, for whatever purpose they disputed over the body, the point isn't what the dispute was about. The point is that in this dispute between Michael and the devil, Michael didn't even name call the devil. Michael just said, "Devil, the Lord rebuke you." And said, "Hey, I'm leaving it in God's hands." And he's already done it. So what a wonderful comfort to us that we don't have to go down the tactful way of, oh, what's the right way to pronounce the wordings if I have to do an exorcism? What's all the, I don't have to do all of this the right way. I just back out of it and say, "Devil, the Lord rebuke you." And he has that control. All right, we just got through one page. But that's kind of what I thought after I had put this together, that I was hoping we'd get this far, and even with some wonderful comments by you, we've used up our time. Let's go ahead and close with a blessing. Lord God, bless us through the study of your word, that we might contend for the truth of the faith, and then also hold on to it in the face of every temptation and every attack of false teachers. In Jesus' name, amen. Yes.
Did you already